Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me. My name is David Dungay, Editor-in-Chief at UC Today, and I'm so excited to be presenting UC Trends 2022. In this series, we're going to be talking to those senior executives, those winners of the UC Awards, and we're going to be asking them about their thoughts, their opinions, and what they're seeing for the future of the market. This is a really significant series because it's a chance to not only find out those trends and those super trends that are coming down the line, but also to get to know these leaders in the marketplace as well. So watch out for our quickfire questions at the end of today's session. We're going to be really sort of getting to not only the crux of the industry, but getting to know our senior leaders. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Matt Brown, VP of Enterprise Products at Bandwidth. Welcome to the show, Matt. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, David. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. So, Matt, where should we start? Well, let's start with a bit of history, shall we? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, the business, and how you got into the UC industry?
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting story, actually. So, my background, I've spent my entire career in venture and private equity backed companies. So, very much from the entrepreneur side. About a little over 4 years ago, I got approached by a company called Voxbone, and they were looking to kind of pivot away from a kind of a traditional VoIP carrier into more of an enterprise CPaaS platform, something to rival the Twilios and the Nexmos of the world. On a global scale, focused specifically at the enterprise. My background had been in building enterprise B2B platforms and marketplaces, and so they asked me to join as VP of Product to help them through that transition. And so we spent from 2018 up until last year. We spent a considerable amount of time. Building out that enterprise capability for Voxbone, and ultimately that culminated in the acquisition of Voxbone by Bandwidth in October of last year. So that's ultimately how I joined the band.
Excellent. So, well, not long under the Bandwidth banner, but hopefully all going swimmingly well. Let's talk about some workplace trends. It's been a funny year for everyone, or funny 18 months really. What have you seen as the most significant trends in the industry over the last sort of 12 months or so?
Yeah, it's it's something that I call the Great Convergence. It's really this convergence between unified communications, contact center as a service, and CPaaS to a certain degree as well, where it's starting to where the lines between where each one of those domains start and stop are starting to be blurred as customer experience and remote work start driving some of the requirements for those segments. And so we've seen with the attempted acquisition of Zoom and Five9, we've seen with the expansion of platforms like AirPad or AirCall and DialPad, this blurring of the lines, and I think that'll continue. And ultimately, I think we're going to see a lot more consolidation amongst the platforms, and ultimately new and interesting opportunities that arise because of that. Okay,
excellent. So, well, I should say congratulations. You are a UC Award winner, which is fantastic. Looking back over the last 12 months, you mentioned obviously the Bandwidth acquisition of Voxbone, but what have been the other standout moments for the business?
Yeah, so we've launched our first suite of enterprise products, which has been well received in the marketplace. So we actually won our award for our Teams Duet product, which is a direct routing product, which is differentiated with our emergency services offering that sits behind that, which has been great. I mean, we've seen tremendous uptake of that. We've also work closely with other cloud platforms like Ring. We've just announced the duet with Ring in Genesys Pure Cloud. So our push into the enterprise has been well received, and there's strong momentum behind that. And so I've been extremely happy with the progress we've been able to make today.
Brilliant. So the future, like we're here to talk about future and the future trends. What do you see is going to be a significant trend in the marketplace in 2022? Significant technology changes or any significant shifts in buyer behavior that you want to speak about?
Yeah, so the biggest trend that we've seen is COVID has obviously accelerated the shift to the cloud, and that's across both UC, CC, and CPaaS verticals. The challenge has been a lot of times when enterprises have taken that leap to move to the cloud, what they're finding is they're actually losing a bunch of functionality. Those homegrown, purpose-built systems of the past actually served a purpose. It provided a lot of custom functionality that doesn't exist as they move to a cloud platform. And so I think what we're going to see through 22 and kind of the next wave of this cloud evolution is the emergence of open platforms that allow enterprises to build on top of these cloud-based systems to bring back that missing functionality that they had to give up when they made the migration.
Wow, well that's super significant. Tell us a little bit more about those enterprises building on top of this sort of infrastructure. How are they going to make this happen?
Yeah, so it seems like the cloud platforms are taking one or two approaches in their enterprise cloud strategy, and that is either to become an open ecosystem, much like Genesys Pure Cloud or Microsoft Teams to a certain degree, or a all-encompassing closed ecosystem through acquisition and internal development. And ultimately, what we're seeing is the open ecosystems are rapidly gaining market share. Microsoft Teams and Genesys Pure Cloud are undisputedly the leaders in their space, and we believe that's because they allow these enterprises to build on top of those platforms and piece together the functionality that the platforms themselves don't have in place today. And so we think 22 is actually going to be a pivotal year for the industry, because a lot of these closed ecosystems are going to have to go in one of two ways. They're either going to have to open up in order to compete, or they're going to have to consolidate the industry in order to fill those functionality gaps. Either way, we think it's setting up for a really, really interesting dynamic.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Okay, so in the second half of this interview, we're going to be getting to know you a little bit more. So we're going to move to some quick fire questions. So, are you ready?
Absolutely.
Describe yourself in 3 words.
Convicted but adaptable.
Okay, so first job.
Orman's Furniture Company. I worked in the warehouse as a truck unloader and loader.
Favorite band.
Oasis, hands down.
Good choice. Most watched movie ever.
Ooh, this one's a toss-up. It's either Shawshank Redemption or Back to the Future.
Excellent. Favorite cuisine.
Man, this is a tough one. I'm gonna go with barbecue. Anything cooked over a barbecue.
What's your morning routine like before work?
So I have 2 small kids. So it's typically being woken up by some sort of screaming or crying, and then it's a mad dash to get my oldest out the door for school, followed by consuming copious amounts of coffee until the nanny arrives.
Sounds familiar. Tell us a surprising fact about yourself.
So one thing that a lot of people don't know about me, I spend a lot of my free time working with entrepreneurs in Latin America and Africa.
If you could live in another country, where would you live and why?
New Zealand, no question, most beautiful place on earth.
What's the most inspirational book you've ever read?
So I don't read a lot of fiction, but I'm going to go with a book called Zorba the Greek. It's a fascinating tale. If you haven't read it, I would recommend it to anybody. Fascinating tale about living life to the fullest and not taking everything so seriously.
Favorite pastime?
Oh God, I have 2 kids. I don't have time for any of that. I guess when I do have some downtime, it would be I like to go for a run when I can fit it in, or reading.
How do you describe your job to your friends and your family, particularly your children?
Yeah, my daughter just says, "Daddy, you work a lot." I think the best way to describe it is I make the phone system work with computers.
What's worse, ironing or gardening?
Ironing.
The house is on fire. Which items are you going back to save?
Yeah, my 2 kids. Sorry, wife.
You can invite anyone to dinner, dead or alive. Who are you going to invite?
Oh, interesting one. Dave Chappelle, because it'd be a hell of a time.
Excellent. Virtual or in-person meetings?
In person for building relationships, virtual for maintaining them.
If you go back in time for a day, which date would you go back to and why?
Ooh, go back in time of my life or any time in history?
In history.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know. I guess I'd go back to the day after the Spanish flu epidemic, just so I can understand what the next, what the next stage is for society as we move forward.
If you could give your younger self some advice, what would it be?
Don't take yourself too seriously. Another one that comes to mind is the old Steve Jobs adage, something to the effect of the world was created by a bunch of people figuring it out as they go along who aren't any smarter than you are, something like that. But I think that's good advice.
Biggest business mistake, and what did you learn from it?
Oh, man, I've been an entrepreneur in my past life. I've failed in a previous startup venture, so I've made every mistake known to man. The biggest, if I could categorize the biggest mistakes that I've made, it would be partnering with people who aren't philosophically on the same page as you are.
And which new technology will transform the industry?
Yeah, I'm really excited about 5G. I think it's going to do to mobile networks and mobility what high-speed broadband did to fixed line technology, where all the value-added voice functionality moved over the top, enabled by the high-speed broadband. Comparatively speaking, the mobile voice capabilities that we have today are relatively unevolved. And so I think we're going to see that shift, that dynamic shift with the proliferation of high-speed mobile broadband over the next couple of years.
Matt, I think that's a great place to end today's conversation. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, no, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching. You've been watching me, David Dungay, on UC Today. If you want to follow more on the UC trends, topics and debates, we're doing lots of content at the moment. You can do so on the website. That's uctoday.com/trends. So make sure you go and see everything we've been doing around that there. Thank you for watching. If you like today's conversation, please give us a like and a share on social media. It's greatly appreciated. That's it from me. I'll see you next time.